Hello comrades, and welcome to a video that's been a long time coming. This is an OpenTTD tutorial. Of course, it's not any OpenTTD tutorial. It is intended to be a beginner's tutorial, but it does take place in the mod set that I've developed called XXX40K, or Extreme Expert Experimental 40K. Don't let that discourage you right off the bat. The thing about OpenTTD is, and especially about this, is if you go bankrupt, you just get to start again. So, with that in mind, I'm going to go over the very basics of how to play. Now, we are already in the server. That much I don't believe I can necessarily describe. But, I can't show it because I have to put in the password, and that would require editing, which I don't want to do. But you go to the main menu, you go to multiplayer, you type in the server at the top and what username you want at the top right, otherwise you will just be player, I believe. And then you can log in using the password. All of the information on how to get into the Iron Horseman OpenTTD server is in the OpenTTD thread under Gaming, which is in the fan chat in our Discord. There's a link to that in the description, if you're watching this and you're not already here. But like I said, we're going to go over the basics of the game, how to set up your company, how to set up your first train line or bus line. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do here yet, but I will give an overview of the map first, which I just hit M to open the map, but you can also press this button right here. You can also long press on this button to get extra things. Some of these things we will talk about later. This is not going to be completely comprehensive, but it should give everyone an idea on how to give things a shot. And when I say that, I really do mean give it a shot. Not everything is going to work out. That's life, that's tycoon games, and I mean, if anybody has seen that ancient video of myself playing Locomotion with Heist, you'll know that I don't know everything, because I really floundered. But I'm going to pull open the map here because we can zoom out more in this than we can on the actual map screen. And this is our map. You can tell elevations based on the colors. The higher the terrain is, the lighter the color is. These red dots are industries, and these blue dots here are stations, I believe, that belong to, stations that belong to the company who's, no, just stations in general. All the stations are blue. If I hold, oh sorry, that's on the big map. If I go over here, you can see, if I click on show landowners, now you can see what belongs to who. There's the pink company here, the teal company here, the yellow company here, and over here. Blue company here and here. This server is currently paused. We will unpause it shortly. But for now, it's been paused for about a week, which has given people time to make their companies and get situated. You can also show the industries on the map, which we will talk about industry chains in a little bit. First, though, we need a company. And this is, I think, the hurdle, especially, this is the hurdle that people run into, especially when getting onto multiplayer for the first time. All these buttons up here are great if you know what they do. If you do not know what they do, they are not helpful. Of course, in multiplayer, you won't have the option to pause or fast forward. I'm going to have to go into the console to unpause it. Here are your settings. It looks a little bit much, but the things that you care about are your game options and your transparency options. This can be useful later if you want to hide the trees or things like that. Currently, I have it set up so that when I hit a button, it'll hide everything except for the industries. So we talked about the world map in here, and we can go over if you want an extra viewport. I never use this, but it can be useful. Cargo flow legend is for when things are getting complicated and you need to know where stuff is trying to go, especially passengers. It's very helpful for passengers. And sign list and plan list. I don't know what the plans are, honestly. Some of this is beyond me. Town directory is fairly straightforward. Subsidies. Occasionally, the game will offer a subsidy between a pair of industries or an industry and a town If you were the first person to do that, you get paid extra for a year or whatever. List of company stations. Some of these things are not that important. This is company finances. And you can see everyone's company finances. You can see a list of the companies and a list of the online players, which I'm going to put aside for now. The storybook is not very important. This will change depending on the game script you're using. And some of the things I'm going to talk about here are specific to the setup we have. Some of them are more general. I will try to be specific about what's what. The basic instruction is going to be universal no matter what mod set you play, no matter what server you're on or scenario you load up. It's how you play the game. The facets of that, like what works and what doesn't, that's going to change server to server. So I'm going to try to talk about both. But global goals, this is still initializing because things are paused. So I'm going to fix that. You can see all the different graphs for performance. Company league table, which shows how well things are going and what the leaderboard looks like. Industry directory and industry chains. We'll talk about industry chains soon. And then, of course, trains, trucks, or road vehicles, ships, and airplanes. Of course, nobody has airplanes because it is 1850. And then zoom in and out. And this is where you see the vehicles, and this is where you build stuff. We can't build anything because we don't have a company yet. So, I'm going to start a company. And when you join a server, this window should come up. If it does not come up, you can long click on the little dude up top and go to online players. And it'll show you if anybody's online. But I can just click that button, it'll make a new company, and then we can modify that company in here. So for example, I'm going to change the color scheme. We're going to be gray and white, because I like monochrome things. We're going to give the company a name, which is going to be the Iron Horseman Co. And we can also put in a password, but I'm not going to do that right now because it's not important. And I'm not going to put a password up on screen. So we've got, you can change your president name, you can change your face if you want. You can just new face. You can also select things. You can really customize the person if you want. I'm just going to leave this sad-looking guy because why not? So that's making a company. The other thing you can do with your company is make a headquarters, which will upgrade as your company gets better. And since we're going to start around here, I think, and this is just to give everyone an idea of where we are, and if you can hold control and scroll, it'll do the other map types. This one is the company. This one is something. This one is industry types. All the different industries are different colors. And then this one is foliage. Oh, sorry. This one is elevation. That's, I know. What is the difference between this and this? Don't know. Oh, this one is infrastructure. This one is companies. So that's holding control and scroll wheel. Now we're going to start over here. So I'm going to drop my headquarters near Little Wyberg Springs, I guess. And that cost me a couple bucks. We have $199,840. If you click on this down here, it brings up your finances, where you can borrow more money or pay off your loan. The loan does accrue interest over time, or you pay interest payments on the loan over time. So there's two things I want to do. One is make something that's a fail-safe, something that is going to make me money pretty much no matter what, and something that is a gamble. Now the fail-safe, especially in this version of the game, is almost always something to do with road vehicles. There's a couple of things working to our advantage here. One, they're really, really cheap to run, and B, all of the towns are connected with roads already. So the hard work is done for us. In fact, there are a few towns around here that already have somebody setting up bus services. Here's one. The Blue Company, whomever that is. That is not enlightening. Oh, it's East. Yeah, that makes sense. So East has set up bus services in these three towns, which are probably going to do pretty well for making money. Meanwhile, there is a truck service here between this fruit plantation. You mouse over something and it tells you what it is. And if you click on it, it tells you what it does. Requires farm supplies, produces 141 tons of produce per month. Where does produce go? If you want to know, you can click on Industry Chain. This brings up a window which covers the industry chain for this industry. You can see it takes farm supplies from all of these places, and it produces fruit, or produce, which goes to these 3 places, including this right here, which is a fruit packing plant. Takes produce and packaging. Now you'll notice, this industry produced nothing last month. It wasn't receiving anything. This industry produced something last month, despite the fact that it's not receiving anything. And that month would have been December 1849, so before the game started. This is a base level of production. This is a starter industry. It will always produce, and with the mod set, these industries do not despawn. They will be here forever. It will produce more if you bring it the supplies it wants. Every other industry that aren't a starter industry, they don't produce anything until you bring them something. The more different kinds of thing you bring them, the better they are at producing their output. So, if you bring, just as an example, 100 tons of produce, it might produce 100 tons of food. If you bring 100 tons of produce and a little packaging too, it might produce 200 tons of food. It's more efficient the more different kinds of things you bring. That's a really basic rundown on the industry system, and really that's the information that you need to have to build on. Here's one that I think we're going to do. This soda ash mine, and the more you play, the more you'll get to recognize these automatically. And this glassworks. This produces soda ash, 176 tons a month. This consumes soda ash. Straightforward. We can run things from here to here, using a train or a truck or a tramway. Or if this river went a little bit farther, we could even do it via boat. You can run ships along the rivers as if they are canals. Now, I do want to talk about the industry chain just to give one more piece of information, because this is critical, especially if you're unfamiliar. Using the industry chain button, which pulls up the industry chain for a given industry, you can link it to the minimap down here. If you long press on this, you can say all, producing, or accepting. Now, I'm going to say all, because it makes things simpler. Actually, it makes things less simple. Let's do accepting industries. This is going to show you every industry that is a soda ash mine or accepts the output from a soda ash mine. Now we are here. This white is our soda ash mine. If I mouse over it, it blinks. There are 4 of them on the map. The other 3 are God knows where. Output from this is accepted by all the things that are lit up. Cannery, chloralkali plant, cleaning products factory, glassworks, of which you can see 2 on this view, and a meat packing plant, which you can see 2 on this view, as well as a solvay plant, which makes soda ash. If you're short on soda ash, you can make soda ash out of salt in a solvay plant, among other things. But if you're looking at an industry and you're saying, gee, I don't know where to take this stuff, that is how you find out where, instead of mousing over all the industries and hoping that you run into one that accepts it. So, let's do our easy thing first. Little Winburg Springs, our hometown as of now. I'm going to build a bus service here. Before I do that, though, actually no, I'm going to leave it paused because I feel that would be unfair to everybody else. Everybody's been waiting for this to be unpaused. I'll unpause it when I'm done with the video. Or at least when I'm done with this part of the video. So, we want to build bus infrastructure, road infrastructure. You can click on this or long click on it and go down to any of the available kinds of road construction. Since we're going to be using the town roads, which are stone paved roads, I'm going to use stone paved roads, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're placing these already on town roads. So you can see, as you mouse around, the white square where your station is going to be, and the blue squares, which is where it will accumulate stuff. And you'll notice that I just went straight to this automatically. This is build bus station. There are also truck stations. You can also build road using these buttons here, or demolish stuff using this button here. Notably, if you demolish things near a town, and you can see coverage, or sorry, local authority, if you click zone, this is the town's area of concern. If you start breaking things in this area of concern, the town will get upset with you. If the town gets too upset with you, it will forbid you from building within its area of concern. So, with that in mind, we are going to build a couple of bus stations. The first one is going to go right here. And you'll notice it already connected this piece of road automatically. I paid for the station, the road it's on, and the piece of road next to it. So now we have a bus station here that covers that part of town. We should add another one. We could add another one here that covers the middle part of town. And you'll notice that these two stations, they only point in a specific direction. If I try to use a station that points sort of, bottom left to top right on a road that goes the other way, I'll get an error. That's good to know. So we have a station here, and let's put a station outside, just on the outskirts of town here. Now we've got 3 bus stations. The next thing we need is buses. This is a road depot. All vehicles come from depots of some description. Unlike locomotion, you cannot just place them down where you want. I'm going to place the depot here, because this road is already pointing in this direction. The other reason I'm putting it there is because it's at the end of the route, and you're going to want vehicles to visit your depot very often, so they stay in good repair. If you click on the depot, it brings up the depot window. In here, you can select New Vehicle. Now, this town is pretty flat, but we do have this little hill to contend with, so I might go with a 2-horse small passenger carriage instead of a 1-horse. You'll notice the difference in horsepower and speed. Oh, apparently they have the same horsepower. The speed is different. Notably, the max reliability is much better for the small passenger carriage, but these two are still pretty dismal, so let's see the 2-horse passenger carriage regular. Once again, same amount of power, same amount of tractive effort, which is interesting because we're adding more horses. But I think we'll stick with the 2-horse passenger carriage for now. I'm going to buy one of these, and I'm going to pause, because what I could do is I could buy a bunch of these. Normal, if I was in Transport Fever, I might just buy a bunch of them, but I bought the one because when you have multiple vehicles on a route, one of the best things you can do is put them in a group. You don't have to do this, but it's helpful. So I'm going to open up my vehicle list. I can click on here and click on here, and it'll bring me my vehicle list. I'm going to create a group down at the bottom left here. I'm going to call this group LWS Bus. And then I'm going to drag my vehicle into this group. Why I did that will become apparent shortly. Now that I have this vehicle, and it's in a group called LWS Bus, you can see because it says LWS Bus over here, although this might be different depending on your settings. I'm going to go to Show Vehicle Orders at the right here, and we're going to create it a route. First things first, it's going to stop at the depot. Because every time it visits the depot, the reliability is refreshed, and if it is broken down, it repairs those breakdowns. Having a depot stop on all of your routes is very important, especially in this server. Then we're going to go down the list. We're going to stop at Springs Heights, then Springs Central, then Springs. And so now you can see the lines. The vehicle will go from here to here to here to here. And we want it to come back the other way, so we'll say go here as well, and then here, before you go into the depot. Strictly speaking, you don't need this second stop up here, but it makes the lines look good. If you didn't want to add this central stop, you could use non-stop orders. By default, all of your orders will be non-stop, if that's how things are set. Non-stop means it will ignore any stations it passes through on the way to the next station. Otherwise, it'll add them to its schedule automatically. This can be really chaotic and I don't recommend it, but if you want to play around with it, it's there. So now we have LWS bus number 1. It's ready to go. In fact, I can tell it to go. I can click that, and now when the game is unpaused, it'll start going. But we need more of these. In fact, I would say we should have at least 2. So I'm going to click Clone Vehicle, and then I'm going to control click on that vehicle there in the depot. You can also click on it if it's out in the world. Or if it's in a window. You can click on it anywhere you can see it. And now we have a second one. You'll notice it's already in the group because it says LWS bus, and you'll also notice it already has the schedule. That's the magic of groups. On top of that, these are shared orders. Because they're in a group, because I control clicked, they're shared orders. If I change things on one, it will change it on the other. For example, if I said, actually, I don't want that, I'll delete it, and now it is deleted from both vehicles. But I've changed my mind, I want it back. There it is. Things will always be added to the end of the list if you are adding commands. However, if you click on a command before you add a command, it will add that command above the one you have clicked on. So now we have 2 buses. We're going to do one more thing before we leave these 2 to their own devices. And this is our fail-safe. If I start to notice that our other venture is losing money, I'm going to shut it down and we're going to make money off of this. It might not be much, but it should be something. So we're going to go a little bit deeper. We're going to click on the timetable button. This is where things get complicated, and no, I don't understand everything here. I'm going to do 2 important things. I'm going to hit automate, which is going to make the timetable run by itself. That doesn't mean the vehicle would not be running otherwise, but what it means is, as it passes each stop, the timetable will keep track of how long it took to get there. That's useful for complicated things, but what it's really useful for is this, auto-separate. Once the timetable is complete, these 2 buses will try to make sure that the spacing between them is equal, so that they're not bunched together all the time. This works for any number of vehicles. The timetable just has to be automated, or at least filled in first. So we're going to close all that out. You can right-click on windows to close them. That's a setting. It's not there by default, but I have it turned on. You can also hit backspace to close windows. There's also Be Hill up here, which we could run an intercity bus from here to Be Hill, but I'm not going to focus on that right now. I'm going to focus on the other thing, which is this soda ash mine and this glassworks. Now, this isn't a long distance. In OpenTTD, the cargo payment is based in part on your distance. So while I want to do this with a train, it might be best done with a tram or a truck. So I want to use a train. How do we make use of a train? Well, we need to make it a longer distance. So maybe instead of this soda ash mine, taking soda ash to the glassworks and nothing else, what if we had a train that took stuff from the soda ash mine to the glassworks and also to, wait, where'd it go? The meatpacking plant, also to the meatpacking plant down there. Now that looks like a long distance, but don't worry, track should be fairly cheap. So we can have our train come here, load up on soda ash and salt, and then drop off half here, and then run down here and drop off the other half. Let's talk about how we're going to do that. The other thing we're going to do, I really should have, well, I guess we'll learn a lesson on the way. So there are a lot of different kinds of track. The faster the track, and the more things on the track, for example, catenary or dual power, the more expensive it is to build and maintain. Right now we're going to start by building very low speed rail, because it's the cheapest. And we're going to bring it to right about here, because we cannot go any further, because there's a road in the way. We could demolish that road, but we don't need to. I'm going to use... So there are things like the polyline tool. I'm going to keep things simple and just build track in a specific direction to start with. We're going to start here, and I'm going to click and drag through Connington and in the general direction of our soda ash mine. I'm going to go straight through that forest, down here, and then I'm going to stop right here, because we need to swing north to make sure we go by our glassworks. Now, hills are going to be a problem for us in 1850. We can't forget that it is 1850. So I'm going to try to go around them wherever I can. The other thing to remember is the train's going to be loaded heading this way and empty headed this way. So we can ignore the hills a little bit on the way back. I'm going to start with a station. Let's use a basic gravel platform. 1 track long, 5 tracks, or sorry, 1 track wide, 5 tracks, 5 tiles long, in this orientation. You can see what the station is going to look like and the area it's going to be able to place and pick up things in a manner of speaking. Its catchment area. 5 tiles is probably excessive for this area, for this stage of the game, but you can get trains that are very, very long as time goes on. I'm going to place a station here. I'm going to place another station, let's say over here. I'm giving it a little bit of extra space because there's rough ground here, which is more expensive to clear than just grass. But most of the time you won't really have to worry about the difference. So we need an easy way to get up here, and we need to do it without disturbing too much rough ground. Now this is where I can hide the trees with that X button I mentioned earlier. And if you don't know, or if it'll hide everything if you don't have it set on your transparency settings, but you can do it manually there if you want. So, we're going to build a diagonal track there, and I'm using the number keys to select what kind of track I want. And connect it to the back of the station there. Then we're going to come down this slope. You can only come down slopes perpendicular. You'll notice when I did that it stayed level. And I know isometric view can be a little bit confusing, but you'll get the hang of it. And then we're going to bring this up to here, where it will line up with a track coming out of our Tenwood Valley station. So now we have our first 2 stops. We've got our station here that's going to pick up things, and our station here that's going to drop off one of our products. We need to continue out this direction. Oh, I missed. I don't want to nick the corner of that, so we're going to come back here, and I'm going to hold Shift so that it doesn't build anything. If you hold Shift, it just gives you an estimated cost instead. If you hold Control, it allows you to delete things, or you can use the bulldozer, like so. We come down here, and we need to find a way to connect this up without too much headache. We can come straight across here. You'll notice that we covered this little indent here. If your track is partially hanging off a hillside, it will build a little bit of foundation under it so that you can build there. That way you don't have to do a lot of terrain manipulation, because editing the terrain can be very expensive. Here we will though, and I'll show you just how expensive it can be. So if you go into this menu, this is your landscaping menu. It also allows you to place signs, something like there's another salt mine over here, and I want to make everyone on the server know that I am going to build this salt mine in the future. So I'm going to say dibs. Hopefully people respect that. If they don't, then you'll just have to fight them for it. But if we go back into terrain editing, Also, plant trees is nice because planting trees is one of the only ways you can make a town happy after you've pissed them off. We're going to raise the ground right here. That cost $8,000. That might be more than all that we've spent on track so far. We can actually check. No, we've spent about $81,000 on things, including track. So the next thing is, I want to build a bridge across this little indent here. We're still doing very low speed rail, so keep that in mind. But you can click the bridge button, and then click and drag across the gap that you're trying to build over. The least expensive thing here is a wooden bridge. The second least is the covered bridge. So we're going to do that because it has a higher speed limit than the covered bridge, or than the wooden bridge. We're going to continue coming up here. Just going to drag right in a straight line. And we do incur a little bit of extra expense because the terrain is not perfectly leveled out and we have these little foundations going in. But all in all, it's pretty small potatoes. Over here we need a station, so we're going to place this station directly on top of the track that we've already built. You're allowed to do that. But, oh no, it doesn't reach the building. Currently, this station, if I click on it, it accepts nothing, and we want it to accept salt. How might we expand the catchment area of the station? Well, the easiest thing would be to build more station. And I'm going to go into planning track construction for this, because planning track has no upkeep cost. I'm going to go into build station, and I'm going to go down here to, let's see, let's try stations non-track, and pick one of these things out here. There seem to be some kind of animals hitched up here. We're going to change it to drag and drop, because I'm not placing a long station. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this next to the building, and I'm going to control click. That'll bring up this menu here. It'll ask us if we want to build a separate station or if we want to join this station with the one we've already built. And if I do that, then we have, if we show coverage, a station that overlaps the industry. Despite the fact that it is out of range of the actual station platform, placing this over here expands our catchment area and allows us to get this included. Now, we don't need something fancy like signals right now because we only have one train. But I'm going to do my due diligence and put in signals. We'll just use regular path semaphores because they allow trains to pass in both directions, even if they only signal in one. I'll place one at each exit of each station. There is one other thing we should do, though, because this is multiplayer, and you can connect your rail network to other people's rail networks. If we don't want that, we need to prevent it. So we should go into build stations, and we'll use the search feature up here. I'm going to place a buffer stop, which really is just a fake piece of station. Trains cannot run on this in any capacity, here at the end of my station. I'm going to place another one at the end of this station, and I'm going to overlap it with the platform I already built, because you can do that. It saves me scooting everything back. It's still part of the station, and it still contributes to the coverage area, but now nobody can connect to that end. Now that we have a train line, we need a train. It's 1850, so the pickings are kind of slim, but I'm going to put down a depot here, and we'll see what we can get. That's the wrong way. You'll notice that the buildings face a specific direction. Let's blow that up and try again. This way. Same thing with the bus station. We click on it, and it brings up this window. We can go down the list of vehicles, of which there are a decent few. But what we need first is we need a locomotive, and we need cars that can carry soda ash and salt. Now, I already know, but the easiest thing to do is to use the drop-down for cargo types to select, let's say, salt. This one will do. The maximum speed is 37 miles per hour, which is to say it's faster than the track, so it's fine. And it only costs $160 a year to run. Compare that to the single hopper, which costs $720 a year to run, although it's a little bit faster and it holds a little bit more. For now, we will go with the lighter, cheaper car, and we can upgrade things later. That's 10 flat cars for salt and soda ash. You'll notice that these do also carry. I'm sorry, they do not. My mistake. We can drag these individually to here to sell, or we can click here to sell everything in the depot, or we can click and drag here to delete the entire consist. Thankfully, we got most of our money back. So we need something that carries salt but also soda ash. This boxcar will do. When you have a cargo selected in the drop-down, it will automatically refit these to that cargo. These are trying to carry salt now. What I would like to do is make sure part of the train is salt and part of the train is soda ash, so that when it arrives here, the place starts putting both commodities into our station. A station will not start accumulating a commodity until it has received a vehicle with that commodity selected. So I'm going to get rid of one of these and replace it with soda ash. Now we need a locomotive. This is the part that is most difficult many a times. Now, there are two kinds of locomotives here. There are the American ones, which come from two different add-on sets, NARS and the NARS add-on set, and these, which come from the UK railway set. You'll notice if you look at the numbers that the UK stuff is much cheaper to run, but it is also generally weaker. So it's worth considering what you're going to do. Well, sorry, not necessarily generally weaker, because the copper knob is the highest tractive effort thing here, but the American is the fastest thing here. If you're running passengers, or if you have something that really needs to get up there, starting with an American is not the worst decision you can make. You can make money with it, even though it is $304,000 to run a year. For safety's sake, though, we're going to start with a copper knob, because it is inexpensive to run, and quite powerful for our purposes. And it'll go right on the head of that train. Now we only need one more thing, which is a caboose. UK things need a brake van. American things don't actually need a caboose, just because of how that's set up. So we're going to buy a 10-ton brake van with a maximum speed of 40 miles an hour and a running cost of $1,200 a year for our freight train. Now the train is 3.7 tiles long, which will fit in our shortest station down here. It needs a schedule. But of course, first, it needs a group. And we've already done this before, so I will say 10 wood, salt, and soda. Soda. 10 wood, salt, and soda. We're going to drag this guy into there. And now it's 10 wood, salt, and soda, number 1. You'll also notice if we go to train details, you can see that it will carry total cargo of 79 tons of salt and 9 tons of soda ash. These are the cars of salt, and these are the cars of soda ash. If we wanted to change the cargo type, we could use this button here. Let's add some orders to our train. Go here, then go here, then go here. That will come here, it'll pick up what's available in the station, then it'll come here and drop off what this industry accepts, and then it'll come here and drop off what this industry accepts. Simple. Of course, we need to include a stop at the depot, and what I'm going to say is you can change it to maintain if needed, which is what I often do. Once the maintenance value gets below a certain amount of the maximum, sorry, 40% of 95. It's a little weird, but once this drops 40%, it'll go in the depot and get patched out. Now, what I just outlined is simple enough, but we want to do a little bit better than that. So I'm going to say go to Tenwood Valley, and I'm going to say full load any cargo. Now we won't leave here until either the soda ash or the salt is filled up. The other thing I'm going to say is refit to available cargo. Now if there's an imbalance, it will make sure the train can fit as much soda ash or salt as it can, not leaving empty cars before it leaves the station. So we're going to let that thing go, and we're going to cross our fingers and hope for the best. If it doesn't end up working out, then that's fine. If it does, then that's great. Worst case scenario, this company goes bankrupt, and I come back and I make another one. There are always opportunities as the game goes on, especially this one. This global goals system will add more industries as others start getting used. So there will always be opportunities on the map. You can also build your own industries once you have enough money. You can't find your own towns, though. I was looking for that setting, and sadly we cannot. But there's a lot of room on this map to expand. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 companies, and I think we can support more. So if this has made you interested in giving this a shot, I know it was very complicated, I apologize. The game is very much not user-friendly or beginner-friendly, but I recommend starting off small and simple, and you can even skip some of the steps. You don't need to put your vehicles in groups, you don't need to necessarily include a depot visit every time, although it is nice. You don't need to build a train route with multiple drop-off points and fancy commands. But OpenTTD is both a mile wide and a mile deep, and it's worth giving it a shot, because despite the fact that the game has scarcely evolved in UI since 1993, it might be one of the most fleshed out transport games that's ever been made. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I will see you next week. Well, not with more of this, but with more of something. There may be an OpenTTD stream in the future. Feel free to ask any questions you like in the comments, and I hope to see you all giving this a shot. Worst that happens is you go bankrupt. Oh well. We've all gone bankrupt. We've all played Monopoly before. This is the Admiral, signing off.